Good morning. My name is Steve Lackmeyer. I'm a business writer with the Oklahoman, and I'm here this morning with Maureen Heffernan. So you're only in a paper, what, 3 or 4 times last week?
I know. We're just trying to own that paper. We're really trying.
Lots of great art. So let's start with Myriad Gardens first, and we'll build up. First of all, you've got a new garden dedicated last week. Talk about that, the Tannenbaum Reflection Garden.
Yes, actually, when you were saying that we were in the paper a lot, I feel like the Myriad Gardens is we do book festivals where we bring a book to life, and I always think that Myriad Gardens is kind of like the Stone Soup book brought to life, that classic tale where if you have a vision and you describe how wonderful something can be, people come to you with ideas or gifts or connections, as we'll talk about in a second, that just enliven and make our gardens more delicious, as it were. So I think that's part of why we have a lot of visibility, is because the community really engages with it and brings ideas, and they help bring it to life as much as we do.
You know, I used to do some errand running when I was a kid downtown, and I got to see Myriad Gardens being built in the early 80s, and they had those really prohibitive steel beams with those berms. It was meant to keep the wind out, but it made it look prohibitive. And people didn't really buy into it until the Crystal Bridge opened, but even then, the overall gardens never really reached their full potential until Devon really helped out, both with their own resources and then through Project 180. But you've had these great gardens added. So talk about the Tannenbaum Reflection Garden first.
Well, this is I really love this little garden. It's a garden within a garden, and it's not a huge area, but it was an area that had been planted originally after the redo 7 years ago. And the plants that were there were always kind of struggling. They didn't look good. And there were 3 benches right on the sidewalk that they just didn't look good. It looked a little scraggly, and we always want our gardens to be as beautiful as possible. So before just replacing the plants, I thought, there's shade here, and shade is precious in the summer, that why don't we rethink this area and make it a shade garden? So we worked with Scott Murasi, who is tops. He has such an imprint now in downtown. He does a lot of the parks and the new stone garden just by your building, across from it. He designed the Minders Garden in the big redo, so we wanted to keep that voice, as it were, in a garden design. So he designed this with curving stone walls. We took advantage of all the trees that were there and opened it up and added a water feature. And it's not easy being green. It takes a lot of money. So we approached Dick and Glenna Tannenbaum if they would like to help with it, because they live downtown. They use the gardens a lot and love it. And they agreed, and we had some other supporters too, the Kirkpatrick Fund, we had the Water Trust, we had the Oklahoma City Community Fund helped. And anyway, so we opened it officially last week, and it's a beautiful little spot, and we can use it also for venues to earn a little extra money too.
And talk about there's inspired by Hebrew value. Talk about that.
That's actually, I joked at the opening. I went to school in New York City at a Jesuit university, and we had a priest there, one of my professors, and he always talked about this value, and it always struck me as a really lovely value. And with the Tannenbaums too, I think that had extra meaning for them. But it's a value that means that in your world as an individual, what you see in your daily life that needs repair or fixing or an injustice or anything that needs improvement, that could add beauty or kindness or justice to the world, that you should do that. All those little things pile up and make a big difference. So we thought this was a lovely metaphor of taking this kind of scruffy area that could be used more for people's enjoyment and to add beauty to the world, and we called it the Reflection Garden, so people can think about that, what they could do.
I like that. I like that a lot. You also had the summer solstice, and wow, that's kind of become a big thing over there.
That has. I was just reading an article in the New York Times about all these summer solstice celebrations, that people are really into that. So our event staff, led by Ashley Elkins, who's brilliant and wonderful, they created lots of things to do the other night, and it was one of those things, again, people come out to it and they add something to it, And the whole celebration feels really organic and really fun.
So, and then the third item, which I have a lot of interest in, going back to Project 180 makeover of the gardens. Originally, the plan called for the Thunder Fountain, which is incredibly popular, and people are like miserable when it's not, you know,
We're
on.
miserable because we hear it.
But it's an amazing place, and if you've not been there, I highly recommend going with your kids. It's for kids and adults. I mean, just it's amazing with the different showers and the clouds and the sounds. It's just awesome. And then you got the Children's Garden, which is always going through reinvention, which is really wonderful. But in the middle of that is a pavilion. It wasn't meant to be a pavilion. It was originally going to be a small cafe burger stand for the children's area of the family area of the gardens. And due to budget constraints, it was just built as a pavilion. And, well, it's kind of served a purpose, but not enough of a purpose, has it?
No, we definitely use it, but a lot of times it is not actively being used. And so I think adding the carousel to it, again, as I stated to you earlier, it's kind of just destined for that eventually. It just star-crossed to come together. So. But in the article that came out, that Steve, that you wrote, there was a little bit missing in that article.
It was awkward for me because I'm writing the article and I didn't want to, but I can be a troublemaker sometimes.
Well, or a rainmaker in this case, but this is kind of like the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. But I wanted people to know, because I think it's.
Thank you.
I mean, we're so grateful that you were the connector, because I was sitting at my desk morning or afternoon and got a call and said, "Hi, Maureen, this is Steve." And I said, "Hi, Steve, what's going on?" He said, "There's this carousel that might be available. You guys ought to think about it." And you know, how often do you get a call like that? The carousel could possibly be available as a donation, even better.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't called me, I never probably would have known about it, perhaps. And but definitely, I got on the phone and called Roddy Bates and had a chat with him, and it all worked out. And so we are so thrilled. So I really want to thank you for making that call, because you probably could have called lots and lots of other people.
No.
And it worked out.
You know, part of it was Roddy and Michael Dillard too. First of all, they're not ones to seek a lot of attention for themselves. They're very successful. They've got a huge impact in our community. I mean, Century Martial Arts is a worldwide concern. I mean, it is huge. I got to go into their warehouse and distribution facility, and it was like that big warehouse at the end of Indiana Jones, where it just goes on and on. And we're very lucky to have that as kind of an underappreciated business anchor for our community. And they've done a lot of real estate investment. They own the Waterford. They worked with the city in bringing the Scriven back. They were the ones who had bought it, and then they were willing to sell it to the city and got that going.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. So they've been around, and I've gotten to know them quite well over the years, despite their awkwardness around reporters. They're not people who seek publicity, so but I have gotten to know them. And they were not aware that the pavilion was out there. I mean, they know about the Myriad Gardens, but I don't think they had an awareness that there was a place that really would be a perfect fit, that it wouldn't be that big a deal to move it from Plaza de Mayor, which was part of Crossroads, to that pavilion. And what makes this gift even more spectacular and really wonderful is it's not like they ended up with that when they bought the mall out of receivership. It was owned separately, and they bought that so that it could be a part of trying to reinvent Crossroads as a Hispanic marketplace. And it was really a great effort. They tried their best, but that location, it's got challenges. Especially with all the highway construction around it. So that wasn't really able to thrive as much as they needed it to work. Air conditioning a mall and keeping it up is no inexpensive task. So they had to close it. last October 31st. And I had taken my younger son there several times because they had the model railroads there, which was an amazing thing, and it's going to come back in its own home. But yeah, I would take him there, and I actually had my son ride that carousel a couple of times.
Oh, really?
And before it finally shut down, and it's just going to be magical there at the Gardens. Talk about what this will look like, about the color, the lights, the glass, the music. Talk about this location and how ideal it is.
Well, when we went out to take a look at the carousel, after you called me, I got on the phone with them right away. I think we went out, I don't know, in a couple of days right after that. I mean, we really wanted this carousel to take a look at it. And so you weren't sure what it was going to look like, what shape it was, and we want things to look nice at the Gardens. So when we saw it, I was thrilled because having been indoors most of its life, I think, it was in really good condition. I mean, it's well loved on some of the animals, obviously with little hands over the many years, but it's in great shape, and I really like it because it definitely has a vintage character to it. So it's got mirrors and hundreds of lights. So it's really charming, and it fits like a glove right under this pavilion. The only thing that won't fit is we won't have the blue and white tinted canvas top. It won't fit. We have to cut a small hole in the ceiling of our pavilion to support the main support pole. But other than that, all of these beautiful lights and mirrors will, you can see those, and it just has this great vintage appeal, and it fits perfectly there. We're going to be putting in some screens at night. We can close it in. And I want to get some flower boxes and put around it to really make it look beautiful.
Yes.
And I think especially on a summer evening when the lights are on and the music is going and the kids, it's just going to be magical. A carousel has this timeless appeal. And it's something, it's kind of neat the fact that it has been in Oklahoma City for 20 years or so, almost?
Yeah,
15,
about 15, 20 years. We're trying to figure it out, but I think about 2003, yeah.
So it's kind of a touchstone. I mean, a lot of urban parks have these, and I think it can serve, hopefully we'll have it for many years, as a touchstone that you go back to and you have fond memories of. And everybody loves the carousel, the nostalgic value. So I think people will love it of all ages.
And we know a carousel will work at the Myriad Gardens thanks to Bob Funk Jr. and Prodigal.
Yes, I definitely want to credit them because when we had the winter shops there for several years, which they rented our space to do that, they brought in a carousel, which is almost exactly like the one we're getting. It looks almost like identical. And they were very generous because they rented it, they paid for everything, and they even gave us back a donation of most of the $1, I think that was charged. So I really want to credit them for getting it here, and we saw how popular it was. And that made me think about, we really should get something in the summer. We don't have to worry about snow and ice, and freezing temperatures, and so yes, they were great about that.
Talk about when you hope to have it there and spinning around.
Well, it's the end of June here. We hope to have it up and running if everything goes okay and the installation it doesn't present any problems the first weekend in August. So we're going to have a big party to celebrate an opening. So it should be early August it will be up and running.
And I don't think it's been made clear enough, but I mean, Roddy and Michael, they're actually helping you all in terms of making sure it gets disassembled correctly, shipped correctly. I mean, they're really not just donating it to you, but they're acting as partners with you in getting this done, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they have somebody still on the staff who used to operate it or take care of it. So he is going to help our staff take it down, assemble it, train them, show them the ropes mechanically, and that's a huge help. So you don't even have to worry about finding someone to train you how to keep it going. Right, because it's not exactly there's like a big list in the yellow pages of
you mean it takes? There's more to it than pushing a button and pushing it off, huh?
Well, it's an amusement ride, so you have to make sure it's really safe.
I mean, Department of Labor oversees these things. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. It's serious. I mean, it's very safe, but you have to make sure it's running well. And
another little fun tidbit is this was built by Chance Amusements in Wichita, Kansas. I got to visit there when they were refurbishing the Wheeler Ferris wheel. And yes, they created the Wheeler Ferris wheel as well, which was for a long time the Santa Monica Pier Ferris wheel that appeared in the original Iron Man. So this has a nice cousin nearby.
Yeah, nice bookend.
Yeah. This has also got to be very important as you have to transition with, you want to make sure the Myriad Gardens stays a very lively, thriving, vibrant place. And you're also creating a new place to Scissortail Park. And some big things just happened at Scissortail Park too. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, we're operating both, and it's really exciting. And I think that people say, well, are you competing with each other? And I used to say, well, no, they're going to complement, and that's true. But in some ways, yeah, they do compete a little bit, and you have to make sure the Myriad Gardens still stays strong and vibrant and has unique things there. So the big new thing that people don't all just rush to that and not take advantage of all the things at the Myriad Garden. But I think the Carousel is a really good example of that we're going to have that at Myriad, not at Scissortail Park. It will have its own amusements there, namely an outdoor roller rink, which should be fun. But I think the size of the two are obviously different. So the Carousel is a really good example of something that's a little smaller, scaled right to Myriad Gardens that people can enjoy, as opposed to if we were even to have one at Scissortail, we would need a bigger one in terms of the scale. So I think there's a charm and uniqueness that really fits this carousel size at Myriad Gardens, and being placed near the Thunder Fountain and Children's Garden, as you say. The three combined make it really special and fun and a destination within the garden.
And they're all like a stone's throw from each other.
Yeah, yeah, and it's near the streets, and it's easy to get to. And so that makes it different. And we're keeping that in mind as we develop programming and other things for the new park in Myriad.
So Scissortail Park, you unveiled a new logo. And who created that?
That was Staple Gun in downtown. We did an RFP throughout the city, and I just have to, it was really hard. We had so many talented people, but
we're blessed. We
went with Staple Gun, and there it is. And we really like it. I think it catches the spirit of it, and so it looks good on a t-shirt.
I remember just a couple years after they got started, when the Colcord Hotel was a Class C office building, and that was being generous. They had their windows open because the air conditioning wasn't working right. There's maybe 6 of them. And now there's like 30, 40, I don't even know, over there in City Place Tower, and just
they've
gorgeous.
got the whole, one of the top floors, I think.
Yeah, they've even got a balcony where you can go out. It's one of the few high-rise balconies we have in this town. But yeah, they're a really talented shop. And then also I'm very excited by the operators that were chosen for the restaurant. It sounds like maybe we have learned from the first experience with the Myriad Gardens and gotten one that actually has a larger vision for the area too. So talk about that.
The Social Order Dining Group, we're thrilled to have them. We had several people send in serious applications for it. Again, it was a really tough decision, but given the success of the Jones Assembly and their enthusiasm and passion, and I didn't realize this about the firm, but they said they like to go into an area that is still somewhat underdeveloped or unformed yet, and they like to be some of the pioneer groups in there and then watch things fill in. So I think they really were smart about picking this as a site they could really go into and develop and make it a success. So they're going to be open year-round, and they're working on the menu and the name and all those things. I think we learned a lot from the Park House, what worked, what could be enhanced, and we brought that to some of the planning to the restaurant site, and Hans Bootzer was involved, and he toured and he learned a lot. And then we made some changes to it. We enlarged storage. I think we enlarged the kitchen space, how the trash is treated and things like that. So hopefully we've overcome a lot of those issues. There's been talk in the community about is this going to have good exposure to the street and interact with the sidewalks and street? The answer is yes. It's going to be almost right on the boulevard, very close to it, right across from the streetcar, near bus stops. So I think it will be very recognizable. It also has this lantern feature, which is a large vertical light element that will glow almost in the evening. So it'll be very much a landmark, and I don't think people will miss it. And there is a lot of parking around that area. We don't have a dedicated parking lot, but there's lots of street parking. It's a short walk, even if you can't find a spot right around the park, you can park in other areas and it's a short walk, or take the streetcar.
Well, that's right, and you got the streetcar stop right next to it.
Right across the street.
And some folks have been asking, it's well known that the Jones Assembly Group, you know, it's not just a restaurant and bar over there, but it's a very successful music venue right now, and they've got Fred Hall kind of backing them, and he knows a lot of folks in the music business. He said we'll get someone like Willie Nelson to be one of the opening acts, and sure enough, he got Willie Nelson. So people are wondering, when the restaurant and park opens, do you think we'll have a nice concert there in the nearby amphitheater?
There is no doubt we were going to have great concerts. We're going to have a wonderful grand opening. I mean, over several days, like a 3-day weekend type thing. And then more events are opening month too, for sure. But we envision some great concerts with big headliners, hopefully, local people, and make it really special. So I'm sure we'll be working with them and maybe others too. Obviously, they bring that part to the equation. That could be a wonderful tie-in for the community. It helps the restaurant. They have a successful track record of that, so we'll be working with them for sure on that.
And we're seeing pictures right now of the park, and we're looking at some of the fountain bases right now, is that right? And that's the stage in the background. And the restaurant steel is going up, and you've got the bridge over the lake, and it looks like the lake liner's already in. I mean, there's a lot of work going on.
Yeah. Oh, it's really picking up momentum now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand that Brian and Graham over there at Jones Assembly, that they've got an interest in helping book some of the acts.
Yes, you know, I've had different people approach me. I've had a couple of meetings with other groups around the city who book musical things or are interested in finding information about that. So we'll be sending out an RFP into the community to see who's out there, who's interested, the terms that will help the park, and so we'll be doing that the next month or so.
So, okay, so let's wrap up. You've got the Carousel coming in August, Myriad Gardens. The park opens in 2019. Scissortail Park opens in 2019. It
will open. We, as the Scissortail Park Foundation operating it, will be taking on the management when the contractors are fully completed, and they've been. The city has said, yes, you've fulfilled your obligations, you're done. Then we come in and take it over. So we're looking at the contractors being done in early June, if they're on schedule.
2019.
2019. So that summer, we're going to see how it goes. It'll be a soft opening, so the plants can grow in, we can test the system. So we'll probably have the cafe open, maybe the boathouse, fountains will be going, and we'll have our grand opening celebration probably in early October or late September when the cools down a little bit. So the Gathering Place has done, I think, something a little bit like that. Their big opening is September 8th, but they opened it, I think, the past few months in this summer to school groups to kind of just test things and beat the drum and get people excited.
So I love the Gathering Place. It looks awesome. It's amazing. It's a unique, different park of its own. I applaud Tulsa. It's great. Their logo says Gathering Place for Tulsa. And people are noting the logo for Scissortail Park says Scissortail Park for everyone.
Well, you know, little city rivalry doesn't hurt anything. So, but I can't wait to see that park. I mean, that's the 1-2 punch. I mean, to have two major parks like that open in the state is huge.
Okay, so there's going to be a competition for funds. There's surplus in MAPS 3 budget. So who should people contact if they want to see some of that surplus money go toward bringing Union Station back to life as part of Scissortail Park? I'm causing it. Remember, I said I'm a troublemaker. The mayor, or?
Sure, I would think the mayor would be a good person. I think that there's a lot of interest in doing that. And I know from our perspective, obviously, going to be managing the park, I just think that is a key piece that will make everything click together. And we could use that for so many reasons. It could be a wonderful revenue generator, so the city's share of operating the cost of the park, helping with that, goes down every year. And it's just one of those hugely iconic buildings in the city.
Amazing. It's
that
a great
demand
station.
That.
And it was buried for so long that people have forgotten. We've got this great historic building, and it's been maintained really well, but there's some transit federal grant money that will have to be repaid to be able to use it, then money obviously to retrofit it and adapt it. So I'm not advocating, I'm not telling people what to do, but if you appreciate Union Station, if you want to see something happen, I guess you would email mayor@okc.gov.
But that's probably a good thing.
And David Holt, our new mayor, is very responsive. So I'm not telling anyone to do that, but if you wanted to.
Well, I think it's on par almost with the Skirvin Hotel. I mean,
yeah,
that
really
kind of thing that just is a game changer. And I've had a few tours in there, and it's like a time capsule. I mean, they've kept it in good shape, and so a lot of the original train features are there, the old windows and station and lights that you can't find that today. That I think that everyone would be so proud to have that brought up to its full potential and used and open for the community to use it for all kinds of different things. So hopefully that'll happen.
And thanks for joining with us, Maureen.
Well, thanks, and thank you, Steve, for helping make this carousel get to Myriad Gardens.
I look forward to generations after generation enjoying it. Thank you.